The warrior stood at the edge of the great hill, the wind whipping against his weathered face. Once, he had ruled from this very peak, a place he had fought so hard to conquer. Now, the mountain he called his own stood beneath the shadows of others who didn't know the blood and sacrifice it took to get here. In the dimming light of the setting sun, the once loyal masses were scattering, abandoning the warrior for newer, younger fighters. Politics was a game of hunger, and it didn't seem the crowd no longer craved what he had to offer. But he had not always been the warrior with nothing. There was a time when his name stirred a wave of awe across the land. He had battled against insurmountable odds, winning the hearts of people who believed in his vision. The mountain was not just a seat of power, it was a symbol of the blood, sweat and tears he had poured into building a legacy. The council had promised him eternal loyalty. The people had sung his praises in the streets, carrying banners with his name. And for a while, the warrior had believed his place was secure. But the winds of change had come, slowly at first, a whisper, a murmur. The younger ones in the ranks, who had once looked to him for guidance, began to eye the mountain with a hunger he recognized all too well. He should have seen it coming. Perhaps deep down he always knew. Power was fickle. It loved no one for long. But the true dagger was not in the shifting allegiances. No, the true betrayal came from within, the members of his own trusted circle. They smiled in his presence, nodding along to his words. But behind his back, they plotted. The warrior had always prided himself on his ability to read men. But this time, he had been blind. Or perhaps, he simply didn't want to see. It had started with a rumor. The mountain needs new blood, they whispered. He has lost his age. And just like that, the murmurs grew into a roar that echoed throughout the land. The once loyal council members began to shift their gaze toward new leaders, fresh faces who promised change. Tonight, a meeting will be held. He was not invited. The council, led by the very men he had once trusted with his life, will decide his fate. The mountain, the symbol of his reign, was slipping through his fingers. But the warrior was not one to bow easily. His sword still hung heavy by his side, a reminder of battles fought and wars won. The hunger for power never fully leaves a man. And though his grip had loosened, his desire had not waned. There was still fire within him. As the stars blinked to life above, the warrior took one last glance at the mountain. He will not go quietly. They might strip him of his title, smear his name, and erase his deeds from history, but they will never truly conquer him. He had bled for that mountain. It was his, forever etched in the annals of time. Tonight, they will decide his fate, but the warrior had already made his decision. He was ready for one last battle. Alright people, do consider subscribing to Afro Narrative and kindly share this video to multiple of your friends. Thank you, and now let's continue. The warrior paced back and forth at the base of the hill, the wind biting at his skin. The thought gnawed at him. Form new alliances. It was a seductive idea, one that whispered in the back of his mind. His old circle had betrayed him, but there were others, new faces, eager for power but untested by true battle. Could they help him reclaim the mountain? The warrior's instincts warned him against trusting too easily again. He had seen how quickly men's loyalties shifted, how easily they could be swayed by promises of wealth and influence. But desperation can cloud even the sharpest of minds. He knew that fighting alone would be suicide. His sword, though mighty, could not hold back an entire council of angry wolves. And so, the seeds of a new plan began to take root. One name kept cycling back to him: Yara. Yara was a formidable strategist, a woman known for her cunning and her ability to rally forces in the most unlikely of places. She had never been loyal to any one leader, her allegiance always shifting with the winds of power. In his youth, the warrior had once fought alongside her, and together they had been an unstoppable force. But there had been no trust between them, only a mutual hunger for victory. He set off under the cover of night, slipping into the shadow of the mountain, away from the council's prying eyes. The meeting was to be held deep in the valley below, where Yara was said to gather her followers. His heart beat heavily in his chest, the uncertainty of his alliance weighing on his every step. If Yara could be trusted, or at least controlled, there was hope. But if she had her own designs on the mountain, he might be walking into his own grave. As he approached the campfires burning in the valley, his and his crew, Yara's army was smaller than he expected. The men were raged, not soldiers but opportunists, their eyes gleaming with greed. He had seen such men before, loyal only as long as the gold flowed. Still, he pressed forward, his hand gripping the hilt of his sword. He knew Yara would be waiting, and there she was, sitting in the largest tent, her sharp eyes cutting through the darkness. Her beauty was still striking, though time had lined her face with experience. She smiled as he entered, but it was the kind of smile that concealed 1,000 plans. "I heard you lost the mountain," she sighed coolly, standing as he approached. "And now you come to me, seeking my help." The warrior held her gaze, refusing to be shaken. "We once fought side by side, Yara. You know what I'm capable of." She walked slowly around him, inspecting the man who had once been feared across the land. "True, but you've grown old, and the world no longer moves in your favor. Why should I help you reclaim what's lost?" Before he could respond, Yara gestured toward her soldiers. "These men, they don't care about you or your mountain. They care about survival, about their next meal, and frankly, so do I." The warrior's chest tightened. His instincts were screaming at him. This was a mistake. Yara didn't want to help him. She wanted something else, something darker. As he scanned the room, the realization hit him like a blade to the gut. This had all been a trap. Before he could draw his sword, Yara's soldiers closed in, weapons drawn. Her voice was calm, almost pitying. "You were always too trusting. A man like you, someone who clings to the past, has no place in the world I'm building." The warrior's mind raced. He had come seeking an alliance, but now it was clear. Yara had set her sights on the mountain long before he arrived. His downfall had been in motion from the moment he set foot in the valley, but the warrior wasn't dead yet. As the soldiers surrounded him, he let out a deep breath, gripping his sword tightly. The fire inside him had not yet burned out. This was not the end. If you really like this story, kindly subscribe and comment down below what kind of stories you'd like me to narrate next.